This is a short bite episode of Homeschool Together. Hello and welcome to Homeschool Together Short Bite Edition. Thanks so much for joining us today. Ariel and I are freshly off of a 1-week vacation where we did not have any children.
Brought to you by grandparents.
Brought to you by grandparents, yeah. We could do an ad. Grandparents, saving your marriage 1 week at a time. No, just joking. We're doing fine. Just a joke. But we had a wonderful trip. We did a lot of driving. It turned out to be the Tour de Volcanoes, kind of what we ended up doing here in the Pacific Northwest. So it was kind of a fun trip for us. But one of the things that we used on this trip, where we didn't have any children, and you're like, well, Matt, why is this applicable to me as a homeschooling parent? Well, we've done a bunch of podcasts in the last 3 or 4 months talking about the summer, and the summer is here. Now, not technically here for the Pacific Northwest. We had our first few warm days last week.
It teased us.
Yes.
It's like a teaser trailer.
And I'll make sure to put it, just made the rounds today. The Almost Live has this great Seattle summer video, and I'll make sure to put it in the comments. It's very funny. It has a little Bill Nye cameo there. Bill Nye used to be on it. But anyway, I'll put that in the show notes because summer just started here in the Pacific Northwest. It's almost July. And so anyway, we went down this trip. And one of the things that Ariel and I like to do, we're calling it our Walkcation World Tour. We always like to go on walks when we go because we like to talk and catch up. It does feel like a lot of times when we're on vacation together, we're trying to catch up from all those lost months, of homeschooling and work and life and all that stuff. So we always like to walk and chat. And
we want to burn a bunch of calories so we can eat whatever we want.
Well, how else am I supposed to eat 500 fish tacos in 7 days? I need to walk like 20 miles a day in order to eat my fish tacos.
So yes.
Yes. Someone's out there understands my love for fish tacos.
So one of the things that we've had trouble with is finding good resources on local trails. And so, there's a couple of different things here in Washington. We could use the Washington Trails Association. I have a trails hiking book. There's, state park reference pages. But
there's
I feel
always books like great hikes with children.
Right, which I feel those are super misleading, a lot of those books. Anyways, I digress. There was one that it said it was like a filler hike, and it was to this overlook, and it was, I don't know what the elevation gain was, but it was a strenuous haul. I barely made it to the top.
Well, and it was funny, the 5-year-old was laughing. She's like, oh, Mommy, this is great. By the end, she was like, Mommy, what are we there? Yeah. It
was horrible. We tried to do it last summer. So anyways, part of my issue is I find that there's a lot of unreliable information about different trails, not good information on where to park and what passes are needed. And they're all on different sites. I've got Washington Trails here. I've got national parks over there. I've got state parks. I
county
have the
parks.
Northwest Forest stuff. It's just, it's too complex.
Yeah, all the fees and everything.
It's so complex. So before this trip, as I was doing some research, I found this really great website and app, and it's free, and it's called All Trails. So we wanted to talk about it because it's summertime, and folks are going to be getting out into nature and doing a lot of walking with families as part of our... You went and took the girls hiking today as part of a homeschool...
my tree study and getting out study. I'm trying to get more outdoor time with them this summer. And I downloaded the app. I don't think I told you I downloaded the app and I logged in.
I figured you did.
And I found these couple trails around this lake, and it was really, really cool.
So it's really, what's really neat about it.
I would never have known about it otherwise.
Right. What's really neat about it, when you go into the app, it basically says, here's your top trails nearby. And it gives, all of these are rated. So everyone's rated them. But then they're also categorized as easy, moderate, hard. And so easy would be, great for kids. And then there's a bunch of other qualifiers on trails. So you can select the primary thing I want to do is I want to do it with kids. It needs to be stroller friendly, needs to be paved, or there's a bunch of different things that you can use as filters.
Yeah, so they do a lot of good filtering.
Yeah, and what your activity is. You want to hike or mountain bike. So this could be also for mountain biking, or I want to do cross-country skiing, paddle sports, fishing. There's a bunch of different ones, but we mostly use this for hiking. You select your difficulty, how long the trail is. Oh, I don't want anything that's over 5 miles or whatever it is. How much elevation gain you're willing to deal with. Mm-hmm. And then your suitability. So dog-friendly, kid-friendly, stroller-friendly. Is it paved? paved or partially paved? Is there an attraction? So I love destination hiking. Like if there's a waterfall at the end or a view at the end, so you can select like, oh, I want views or waterfall or lake or hot springs or beach or, cave or a historic site or something. Then you can select your route. So I want an out and back, or I want to do a loop, or go from one point to the next as if you were going to go on a longer trail. So one of the things I really like is whenever they calculate trail distances for like an out and back, if it says it's 2.5 miles, that is the out and back distance. So it's 1.25 each way. It's not some of the books that you read.
It's only the one.
It's only one direction, but it's an out and back. So you've got to then double it. So this doesn't do that, which I really like. You can also see like how heavily is this trail used. Is this like a high traffic trail? Is it going to be super busy or not? And then they've got a great map view. So you can look at things nearby, or you can look at the map view. You can just zoom in and you click on any of the trails that you're interested in.
And it highlights it, right?
Right. And there are also little dotted lines for unverified trails. Like we have several county parks, for example, that have like walking loops on them. It's not technically a trail, but you could still get a great walk. Those are shown in dashed lines on your map, and they have distances, so which is really cool. But if you look, like right now I'm looking at this, if I select a hike in our local area and I pull it up, it's got pictures of the hike. It has a kind of a short description. It gives all of those qualifiers that if you want to use them for a filter, you can, but if you don't, it'll tell me here. So this hike I'm looking at is dog friendly, kid friendly. There's hiking, walking, forest, river, and views. That's what this hike has got. It gives me a full map of it with all the distances, gives me the weather expected for the next few days. I've got reviews, and I can look at reviews from the last few days to see like what the trail condition is like. There's tons of photos, and
I really like the reviews element, because there was a couple times we ran along, a trail in an area where maybe there were some issues, but
like we didn't know if there was still snow on that trail, for example, and it said like, oh, it's clear, or oh, not too muddy,
Exactly.
Like there might be sections of the trail that had washed out. So those reviews are super helpful.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I like is if you click on once you're in the trail, if you click on the full map, you get the distances on all the different legs of the trail. You also get a map at the bottom of the elevation changes while you're walking. And then once you start your walk, there's a little dot that shows where you are on the trail. So while we were on a trail and I was going like, ooh, I'm not sure if I want to go the whole distance, or how close are we to the turnaround point, or whatever it was, I could actually just open the map and look right on it and say, oh, yep, we're right here, which was great. So all of this was free, and it works for all the states. So I don't have to think about like, oh, I'm in Washington, so I need Washington Trails Association. For us, our vacation spanned both Oregon and Washington. So I was able to use this no matter where I was. And we ended up having some situations where we were like driving, and on our drive, we decided we really just needed to stop and stretch our legs. I was able to pull up the map and go like, what's near the freeway up ahead? Oh, hey, look, there's a county park. And oh, yep, they've got a 2-mile trail. We should just do that. That's an easy one. Yeah. We were able to stop, do a quick trail, and get back in the car. I don't know where else I could have gone to find that information as quickly and easily as I did. So this is all the free version. The pro version gives you the ability to download maps offline and print maps.
And that can be helpful, especially if you're in an area where there's no Wi-Fi. I know with Google Maps, you can do that locally. If you have Google Maps, you can download it like kind of an area of the map to your phone. So if you do lose connection, you can actually use your Google Maps, regardless of access to internet or Wi-Fi. Having them offline, it can be helpful, especially if you're getting some of those backcountry areas where, you're not going to have Wi-Fi. And we were in a couple of areas where we had really good Wi-Fi, like we were at Mount Hood in Oregon, and we had Wi-Fi. It was awesome. But we were at Mount St. Helens and we had no Wi-Fi, and so there was just, sometimes it's intermittent, and if that's something that's interesting to you, what's the cost for a subscription?
So it's $30 a year to get it. So it's really not that bad. So if you get Pro, you can download offline maps. It will give you an alert if you make a wrong turn on the trail.
That's cool.
Which I think is pretty great. You can find trails by distance from you right now. So instead of having to look at the map and try to calculate which is closest, it'll show that to you. There's more details on the maps, and then you can print maps. So, it gives you a few things, but I think even if you just get we only have the free version right now, and thus far it has been
All we
more than enough. It's been all that we've needed. But I love the mapping feature. I love that it shows you where you're out on the trail, and I love how easy it is to find new hikes. We were kind of amazed. We have a county park not far from us that's a big hiking area, and we knew like one parking area for it and one access way. Well, when we went and looked on All Trails, there ended up being like
There's a
12
bigger, there's a bigger place.
there's a bigger parking lot,
yeah.
but there actually ends up being like 12 different trails within this one area.
Yeah.
But I had no idea. Like, I knew it was a park and I knew there was hiking and I knew of one track. But I like that it shows you lots of different routes you could take. And some of them kind of overlap. Like, oh, there's this loop you can do. Oh, there's this bigger one where you go partially down this loop, but then you go further. Like, it gives you lots of options. Whereas I feel like
well, and that's really helpful for like turning around. Like, oh, we've gone, a mile and a half. Like when we were trying to kill time before we got the kids, before the grandparents picked us up, we were like, oh, here's a great trail. This trail was like 5 or 6 miles long. And we had like 45 minutes. So it was like, okay, let's go 2.5 miles. Let's try to do a 3-mile hike so we can go out 1.5 miles and come back. And we were using our Fitbits to kind of track that. But, using the app to know, okay, I can go about here and then I can turn around.
Right.
And having that app and that information was really helpful.
I just feel like we looked on the park map, the website, the official website for the park, and you look at the map, it's going to show all these intersecting trails and it's going to give you distances. It's not going to tell you how hard any of them are. And you're going to have to kind of calculate yourself, like, okay, we'll do this one. That'll be about this long. And I think this also gives you time. So it'll say how long and the average time to complete. So you kind of know what you're getting into. But I love that it gives you all the loops and the out and backs for you. It would take imagine it taking an entire park's map system and breaking it into a whole bunch of different hikes. And then you can choose which one is the right one for you based on how much time you have and the difficulty and what you want to see and all of that stuff and the ratings of each of those, rather than you having to kind of create your own route. I like that. You could go to that one parking lot and say, oh, okay, here's 12 different hikes I can do that all start from this same point. How far do I want to go? What do I want to see? What do I want the difficulty to be? You select the right one and then you go. We used it extensively for a week, and I was so impressed with it. We were both very impressed with it. We wanted to talk about it today on the show.
Well, and while you're talking, I'm hopping around different countries of the world. Like Canada is in there. I found there's some trails in the Gambia in Africa.
Really?
Yeah, in Spain. So this is not just local to your thing. I'm just kind of hopping around. I'm just going random countries right now. Let's see if Madagascar's got some trails. I'm sure they do. Yes, and they're on the map. There's 8 here. There's 12 here. So if you're in a different country or you're going to a different area of the world, maybe on some travel, or you're doing some work vacation thing, or something that Ariel and I have always talked about, like if she got to go on a trip for work, I would tag along with her and bring the kids, and then we can go see that city and experience things like that. And if you're going overseas and you're like, hey, I want to get some steps in, or I want to go for a little hike, I want to stretch my legs because I just took a 18-hour flight to Frankfurt from Seattle, and not like I have ever done that multiple times. You want to go stretch your legs, maybe you can find a quick hike or something like that, or just even just a loop through the city.
I mean, a lot of these are walks. Like I'm looking right now at Paris, for example. There are 253 in Paris. Yeah. And some of them, they're like different walks around different parts of the city, like to see different attractions. Yeah. They're not specifically this is not all hiking. Exactly. So I think this is just really great.
Yeah, I'm on like Japan right now. There's like 300 of them near Tokyo, right? So really this could be definitely an app for you to use, especially if you're overseas and you're listening to the podcast and you're in that country. That this might be something that could help you as well.
Yeah, I love this. One of the other features that I really enjoy about it is even in the free version, you are able to create lists and save them. So before we did the trip, I was like, okay, I'm making an Oregon trip. I made a list for that. I went through and I identified a bunch of hikes that I thought would be good. I tagged them all and saved them in the list. So then when we were on the trip and you were saying, oh, okay, well, we're in this area, or we're going to Bend, what kind of hikes are in Bend? I didn't have to go and look it up again. I just went to my list and I was able to do that. And there's a web interface too. So I was able, you can navigate quite well on your phone, but for like big map view stuff, I just tend to work faster on a desktop. So I was able to like go on the desktop, look at all the different trails,
Save a
tag
bunch
them
of
all,
things,
save
yeah.
them all to my list. And then we were able to filter through them on the day of and go, oh yeah, this is what, this looks good to us today. So I love the ability to create lists too. I've never used a trail app or website that has been this user friendly and comprehensive. So we just think this is great and wanted to share it with everybody. So happy hiking.
Happy walking.
Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time.
Happy homeschooling!